Hello and welcome to Studio RC, a daily encouragement for your recovery and your faith. My name is Pastor Max and I am an alcoholic and a believer. And I'm sober today only by the grace of God and the program as it is contained in the 12-Step Fellowship. Today we're going to talk about acceptance and how important of a topic acceptance is. We need to be able to have acceptance in regards to making progress in our recovery. It tells us in the big book, there will be a time when we cannot picture life without alcohol or drugs. There will be someday we'll be unable to imagine life either with drugs and alcohol or without it. And then we will know loneliness, such as few do. We'll be at the jumping off place. We will wish for the end. There will be a point where we're like, I can't foresee going on in my addiction, go on in my alcoholism, but I can't foresee not ever like stopping using drugs and alcohol. And you're in this state of loneliness. That kind of bottom produces an opportunity for total acceptance of our addiction and alcoholism with no reservation whatsoever. And one that is absolutely essential for recovery. We need to accept the true nature of our addiction. It's written in As Bill Sees It. I don't think happiness or unhappiness is the point. How do we meet the problems we face? How do we best learn from them and transmit what we have learned to others if they would only receive the knowledge? In other words, happiness, not necessarily the point. How often in our search for happiness have we changed things? Have we changed jobs, gotten married, gotten divorced, taken geographical cures, ran ourselves into debt, whether it's debt financially, emotionally, and spiritually. While in recovery, we're learning to grow up. Instead of demanding that people, places, and things make us happy, we can ask God for acceptance. As Bill said, when pain comes, we're expected to learn from it willingly and then help others to learn. When happiness comes, we accept it as a gift and thank God for it. We want to accept things, whether it's gifts or even when it's pain, in order for us to be to develop and to continue to grow. Our scripture for today comes from Romans 15:7, and it says, "Accept one another, then just as Christ accepted you in order to bring praise to God." In the rooms of recovery, here at Recovery Church, we accept one another, just as Christ has accepted each of us. And as we do that, that brings praise to God. So as I looked in throughout the recovery literature, acceptance and to accept was used well over 30 times. Here are some of the usages that you'll find in the literature. In regards to step 3, these conclusions did not require action. They were talking about step 1 and step 2. They require only acceptance. And what step 1 is, we are powerless. There's a reflection on our powerlessness. And step 2, faith is possible for all people. So it only requires an acceptance of those things. It doesn't really require action. And it tells us on page 417 and in the third edition, 449, and acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. And we'll look at that in its entirety in just a few moments. There is this acceptance that we experience. There is a wide acceptance for recovery with the beautiful collection of friends in medicine, religion, the press, together with innumerable others who have become able and persistent advocates. Thankfully, there are advocates to recovery, and because they've accepted what we're doing. So that's more of a global acceptance, but we need to talk about our own personal acceptance. It talks about in the big book Fred. Fred would not believe himself to be an alcoholic, much less accept a spiritual remedy for his problem. He couldn't accept it. And some of us, sometimes we can't accept that, one, we're an addict or an alcoholic, but if we do, that if we're going to have a remedy to our problem, that it's going to be based on spiritual. And that was tough for many of us. It tells us in regards to step 12, can we now accept and adjust to either without despair or pride, like the highs and the lows? Can we do life and accept life without despair or pride? It tells us in regards to step 10, we need to admit, accept, and patiently correct our defects. We need to be able to accept the things that are wrong with us in order to be able to start to experience a correction of those things. It tells us in regards to step 4, if my disturbance was seemingly caused by the behavior of others, why do I lack the ability to accept conditions I can't change? How often do we not accept conditions? In regards to step 5, it says, only by discussing ourselves, holding back nothing, only by being willing to take advice and accept direction, could we set foot on the road to straight thinking, solid honesty, and genuine humility. We need to be able to accept direction. And honestly, it takes a little bit of humility to be able to accept direction. It tells us in regards to step 2, we saw them calmly accept impossible situations, seeking neither to run nor to recriminate. They calmly accepted. If you hang around the rooms of recovery, any problem that you may face, there are others who have probably faced it before. And we see that they've stayed clean, that they've stayed sober through that because they've calmly accepted these impossible situations. It tells us, until I could accept my addiction, I couldn't stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I can't be happy. So acceptance is a critical and important part of that. It tells us in the serenity prayer, we sometimes forget that acceptance is in there, but in all times of emotional disturbance or indecision, we can pause and ask for quiet. In the stillness, calmly say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change. And then we ask for courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference between those things that we can change and those things that we can't change. God's will, not mine, be done. And so that leads us to page 417 in the big book, in the 4th edition. In the 3rd edition, it was page 449. I actually knew someone who had a license plate that said page 449, and boy, were they frustrated when they changed the page for the new edition of the book down back in 2001. But listen to this passage. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. When I am disturbed, it's because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it's supposed to be at that moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing, happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. Acceptance, the answer to all my problems. And I don't think in this moment acceptance necessarily means that I'm okay with where I am. I'm okay that I'm not sober. I'm okay that I'm on the couch and I'm not out moving and I'm not serving. I don't think that's the acceptance it's talking about. I just have to accept. You have to accept me for me. I don't think that's what it's talking about. It's talking about accepting the parameters, again, of the things that we can't change, the way things are, the way our parents are, our siblings are, our spouse is, our boss is, our coworkers are, accepting them, not controlling, not changing them. That's the kind of acceptance it's talking about. It's not talking about change, but in the same way we talk about righteous anger ought to be left to those who better qualified to handle that. We're the same way in regards to acceptance. To not accept a situation as it is because it needs to be changed, we got to tread softly because we think every situation ought to be changed. That was the problem with righteous anger. We always thought we were always righteous in our anger. We were always justified in being angry about everything. And so that's where we have to be cautious. But acceptance is truly an incredible blessing for us to be able to accept the world and those that we interact with. There's a peace attached to it. It's in the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. As we go into the doctor's opinion, it talks about the message that we have must have depth and weight. And it's grounded in a power greater than ourselves. For us to make an impact with others, it's important that our message has depth and weight. And that's when we talk about serenity and we talk about peace and we also talk about recovery, we bring a certain weight and a certain depth, which is why it's recognized by those who have yet to stop. And so we want to encourage people in that way, because it tells us in the big book with working with others, you are sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you offer. Why? Because we offer a message with depth and weight, which is why they will accept the things that we have to share. As we accept the things around us and we start to serve those around us, we're going to find people who are desperate enough to accept with eagerness what we offer, because what we offer is a message that contains depth and weight, but also of hope and encouragement. For the wise have always known that no one can make much of this life until self-searching becomes a regular habit, until they admit and accept what they find, and until they patiently and persistently try to correct what is wrong. That's the picture of recovery. And the great thing about that is when we accept that, it unlocks so much more. So let us, as it tells us again in Romans, let us accept one another as Christ has accepted us. We have the ultimate acceptance through Jesus. And when we accept that and accept others and give that to others, it brings praise to God. Through your acceptance, you can bring praise to God and also bring a depth and weight to your message to others who are still suffering. Thanks so much today for joining us at Studio RC. And remember, Recovery Church, 12 steps, one goal. We'll see you next time. God bless.